All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 2 of Tea Time with Flora. Hopefully, the rest of you will be coming online soon. And hopefully, you can hear me well enough. While I wait for everyone else to come, hi, welcome to whoever just joined. While I wait for everyone else to join in, before I get into the very deep philosophical discussion I have planned for today, I'm going to throw myself a real quick pity party, namely in the fact that I was supposed to go home today. I was supposed to be a solid 4 hours at this point into a flight back to San Francisco with my younger sister, who was supposed to be here this past week, who wasn't here this past week because of Rhoda. So thank you. Big shout out to the virus for making this live stream happen today at this hour instead of me being on a plane. We're gonna, yes, I am sending out links as we speak. There you go. So, yeah, hopefully you can hear me. Other than that, as I'm gonna continue waiting for everyone else to join in because many people promised that they will be here, and I expect more. No, I cannot. I cannot see who's watching. I'm going to assume it's the two Chris's. So between the two of you, while you're here, I'm going to tell you this right now, that one of you is going to be referred to as the Chris who can cook, and the other is going to be the Chris who can't cook. You can figure it out. You can figure out which one's which by yourselves internally. This is a very simple reference point. But yeah, other than that, brief reminder for everyone who is... You preferred Chris 1 and 2. Yeah, well, I'm going to switch it up weekly, right? Right now it's Chris who can cook and Chris who can't cook. Hopefully people will get it from context. If you don't get it from context, well, you'll figure it out eventually. Well, before other people, right? While we're still waiting on more people. Brief reminder that wash your hands for at least 20 seconds a day. The intro to Black Parade up until the second time the chorus repeats is... So Chris just said, I firmly believe that coffee is a meal, and so in that sense, I'm great at cooking breakfast. Yes, of course. You are wonderful at cooking breakfast, Chris. Coffee is the most important meal of the day, even though I don't drink coffee. I prefer tea. So wash your hands for 20 seconds. Do your daily affirmations. Mine today is I look great in shorts, as today was the first day. It was above 15 degrees Celsius outside. And so I, in the spirit of social distancing and quarantine, went outside and laid on a blanket in the middle of an empty field. You know what? Right. Chris, who can cook, just said, that's some funny looking tea. You either recognize it or you don't. And if you don't recognize it, you don't need to know what it is all I have to say for the audience. Natasha, thank you so much. I'm right. So you're right. So this is going to be a fairly deep intellectual discussion on morality and humans and Homo sapiens as a topic based on this wonderful book that you can read. It's on Audible. You have currently a free book on Audible if you want to listen to it as Zoe is listening to it. You can also just, read it because it's wonderful and you really should own a copy. So, Elliot from Seattle, you're in Seattle, I know this. It's not my stupid tea with jam. It's something better. It's Barefoot Pink Moscato. Because honestly, this week has been long. That's my justification for this. Also because this is all that's left of 2 bottles. So I feel like I might as well finish this now before the beginning of the next week. And so yeah, it's gonna be a fairly deep deep discussion on my opinions on why humans are awful. Chris, who can't cook, you're wrong. And that's all I have to say to you. And that just reaffirms my firm belief in you can't cook and you should not be cooking. And so, yeah, but if at any point you want to dip out because my opinions are getting a little too serious or deep, that's fine. Furthermore, if you have some very strong opinions of your own, you're more than welcome to put them in the live comments because I will see them. I will say them out loud because as I found out on my last stream, you can't actually see the comments. And so watching it back makes it look a little weird, like I'm responding to thin air, and I just don't like that. So I'm gonna voice the things that I actively react to. And yeah, so that's, it's at 6 people. I feel like I can start. Everyone else can join in later. Like, I don't care at this point. In my preparation for, so I finished this book, first of all, right? Sapiens is about a brief history of humankind, and it talks about the evolution of people and their place in the world and their position and how they behave and how we behave as animals above all. Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Good. Thank God. Great. All right. Thank you, Natasha, which means that I'm not going to actually voice anything. Everyone watching this afterwards can read the comments popping up. Not on me, though. I'm not going to take up time doing this. But, and so I've been reading this book for like a solid 2 months now because, as I said in my last stream, who misses being able to read a book a day? Because like I certainly can't do that anymore. And the result is that I finally finished it because I promised everyone in the last video that I would finish it so that I can discuss it in this video, and I did finish it, and I'm very proud of myself for finishing it because it was fascinating and wonderful and such a mind-opening read, even though I agreed with most of this stuff, I'm not gonna lie, already. And I'm gonna open up with this discussion that in 1896, so over 100 years ago, some odd 124 years ago, Mark Twain published a wonderful and absolutely phenomenal essay called Man's Place in the Animals World, where he essentially argued that humans are not a superior race. We're not above all the animal and all the other creatures in the animal kingdom, as we would like to believe, but instead are the most evil and most morally corrupt. Because we are the only creatures in existence who have an understanding of good and bad, who have an understanding of morally good and bad. That's not rooted in any physical reality other than our own convictions about what the world's supposed to look like. A tiger, and so the popular quote that has been gone around on Tumblr, you probably have seen it, is that a tiger murdering another animal isn't good or bad. It's just is. Because a tiger has no conceptualization of good or bad in the moral sense. It only has the conceptualization of it needs to eat, and that is food. And so I really appreciate this kind of like that kind of approach to moral sense, because I feel like a lot of what we do, and not even a lot of what we do, every single action, every single conceptualization, or the way we interact with other people is fully governed by these moral rules that we think up for ourselves, right? I didn't start this live stream, even though I fully enjoy this stuff, right? Because I firmly believe that it would be entirely too egotistical of me to sit here and talk at the camera for an hour, 30 minutes, however long, fully expecting people to listen and join in occasionally. And so I've been wanting to do this, as I mentioned, for a while, and I just didn't because, I firmly believe that it would be bad, being egotistical and self-centered is bad, that I should taking into consideration other people and other people's time. And really that's really not the case, right? There's no now in this point of my development of my moral conceptualization of the world, I don't believe, well, no, that's not true. I do still believe there are bad things, right? There are bad things, and there's some things that you really shouldn't do. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with being selfish, like how we're taught not to be selfish and to be giving. I don't think there's anything wrong with being selfish and self-centered and egotistical, because, right, what else are we supposed to do? We've been given this power of imagination, of imagining things that aren't there. And this is something that actually Harari discusses very prominently in his book, about how the entirety of humanistic society and everything that we have achieved up to this point, we have achieved exclusively because we believe in things that aren't there. We believe in, corporations. We believe in money. We believe in the inherent value of the future. We believe in, we believe in organized religions. We see ourselves as part of a community that is not actually a community, right? It's not in a community in the biological ingrained sense that we have in our DNA, right? So in the first section of this book, Harari very in-depthly discusses the fact that we biologically we're like functionally not particularly all that different from most of the great apes, including chimpanzees. And so our very early social groups, our very early social organizational groups, were near identical to those of the chimpanzees, right? We could not work in groups of more than 150 people at most. And that was because we were able, before really, and now I'm getting off track, right? So we could only function in groups of 40 people, because that is approximately the maximum amount of people you can intimately know at any given moment. And by intimate, I truly mean, you know the person, you know their character, you know what they're good at, that you know what they're not good at, right? You know their contribution to your personal space and sphere and organization. And at most you can know 40 people, give or take, intimately, and be able to co-function in a society together. We then invented speech. Big thing, big giant thing. We then invented speech, and more importantly, beyond just being able to communicate, because many species of animals can communicate very effectively between each other, we invented the ability to communicate about things that aren't there. So gossiping is probably one of them. Well, Harari specifically argues that gossiping is one of the biggest things that enabled us to move past, being yet another animal out there on Earth, into being this dominating feature. Because gossiping allowed us to create communities of more than 40 people, right? Through gossip, we are able to know the character of more than just the 40 people we can directly talk to and directly, personally understand and recognize and judge. We can now learn from a friend who we know is trustworthy that some person over there is not, or they are. And so now we can build bigger communities and as a result also have much stronger communities as well. And so that sits us at around 150 people per social unit, social group. And if you've ever worked in a corporation, if you ever worked in a company greater than 40 people. 40 people is approximately like the max you'll know. And so if you worked ever in a corporation or in retail, for example, if you're in a large store, right, those 40 people are usually the people that you know and you can work with. Once it gets more than 40 people, you're not going to know every single person. You're not going to recognize them by name. You're not going to recognize them by face, but you will know who's trustworthy or not through internal gossip, which is why internal gossip is so important, and why, there's what is it called? Cooler talk. When you all stand collectively in the kitchen drinking tea and being like, yes, I heard this thing. That's why it's so important to us to talk about other people, is because that's how we also formulate social bonds. And then the major leap happened, and we were able to buy into something that isn't there. So while gossiping allowed us to form larger social units that could collectively work together and collectively live together, belief in things that aren't there. So at the most basic primitive level, in gods, in deities, in spirits, protection, anything that's above us, beyond us, allowed us to be able to form bonds with groups outside of our own group, outside of our own social group. This phenomenon is still very much so present, right? Any church is a very important is a very, very important social building structure, right? If you're Catholic, if you move, you can immediately find yourself another Catholic church and automatically, on principle, be accepted into that community simply by the fact that you believe in the same structures, you believe in the same God, you believe in the same perception of the way the world's supposed to work. So something that I haven't considered before, but actually Harari points out very, very interestingly, is that this isn't limited to this is not limited to just, deities. This is not limited to religion as what we think of classical religion. This is infinite. We all collectively here believe in the importance of the individual, right? There's nothing in the world that can prove to us that I, as a person, am important. There's nothing in the world that can say undeniably with empirical proof that I have some natural human rights, and they are the right to oh god, what I memorized not the preamble, that's the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? There's nothing outside our all collective agreement that, I as a human being am entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but there really isn't anything that truly proves that. What separates me, besides our collective agreement in that, right? Yeah, we all did collectively memorize the preamble, but I'm not referencing the preamble. I'm actually referencing the Declaration of Independence, freedom, and all that. What I was on the topic of the fact that, right, there's nothing truly that separates me from, the fox that runs around outside my window, besides our collective agreement. Besides our collective agreement that, I am a human and therefore I am entitled to this stuff, right? And we don't give the same rights of entitlement to anyone else besides ourselves, and that's because we all buy into the same concepts, and we all agree for the existence of the same concepts. And the same thing goes with money, right? Money is a fiction of our imagination. There's nothing that says that, I had that a physical coin, right, is worth this much. is worth it. Like a pound coin is worth a pound. There really is nothing saying that. There isn't even a gold standard behind it anymore, right? And so everything is just, and the only reason why it still continues to be worth the goods that I could purchase with it is because I believe that the people who I'm going to use that coin to pay for an object from them believe in the value of that coin. And because I believe in them and they believe in me, that piece, that metal piece that really isn't worth anything tangible to us anymore is valid, is worth what it actually is. And so when the apocalypse happens and everything breaks down, and when everything goes to hell due to this virus, due to 2020 being obviously cursed, right, half of the things that we believe to be in existence, we're going to stop believing in them because there's going to be not enough people who agree that they exist. Corporations can't exist with us all collectively agreeing that they exist as a corporation and they have power and value as a corporation. Is that good? Is that bad? Again, it's just is, in my opinion. It enables us to do wild things and buy into mass enterprises like the discovery of the Americas. And thank you, Elle. And so, right, it allows us to buy into concepts that we have never been that allow us to move and do great things, right? But is it truly necessary? Is that good or bad? Is it, who knows, right? And so a part of that, right, can be moved into like the idea of self. Who am I to argue that, again, I am worth something? Who am I to argue that my opinions have rights, have beliefs? Well, everyone who exited the Soviet Union had a very traumatic experience with capitalism. So, no, actually, had a very traumatic experience with communism. Communism that wasn't actually communism. So I can understand that, right? There's pluses and minuses to everything. And so I had a fascinating discussion yesterday about what is actually selfish, or more accurately, a discussion with myself. Many young people praise communism today, have no idea what it's actually like. Yeah, right. And so we don't know what communism is like. We can never conceptualize what communism is like, because like as much as I support, like as much as I believe we should eat the rich, but also there always will be rich people, right? There will always be people who have more wealth than others, right? We will never be able to achieve pure uniform equality because that's just not how things work. Right. And so we our generation deeply struggles from the black and white dichotomy. Black and white dichotomy, where capitalism is, because we've all suffered so much through capitalism, it's a fascinating discussion in the comments. Please read the comments because they're wonderful, great critiques. I completely agree with all of that. But back on the topic of self, because the self is one of the most important things. Yes, there are other systems besides the U.S. form of capitalism, which isn't even capitalism actually at this point, right? I will have some very strong opinions about the fact that what the U.S. is in right now is not capitalism; it's a functional oligarchy, because 5 companies own 90% of the products that you consume at any given moment, and that's not capitalism, because capitalism implies a free, a minimal barrier of entry to market, which is non-existent, which we don't have in the US, right? The entry to market is so infinitely high because these 5 companies own everything that it's that capitalism. It's an oligarchy because Disney owns all of your media, and there's like Nestle owns, between Nestle and Mars, they own like honestly everything else. Two groups own every single piece of clothing you will ever wear, most likely ever wear in your life, right? It's absurd at this point. It really is. And even right, so agriculture is another big thing, right? Even the food that you eat is functionally owned by maybe 3 companies. Yeah, it's valid. It really is valid. And that like and so competition is important. I firmly believe that competition in any sphere is extremely important. We do need trust fund. We truly do need trust busting. We really do. I can't eat the rich. And I don't mean like just the regular rich. I mean like you're never going to be able to spend this much money even if you had like 3 lifetimes rich, right? Jeff Bezos has more capital than most of the countries in the world. So should you really be richer than a country? Should an individual be really richer than a country? Like really? Oh, lovely. Thank you, Ren. Thank you. Welcome, Ren. I have deeply missed you. Hopefully, you recognize this lovely thing. But and so yeah, and so in light of that, in light of all of that, I think it's really important to remember that fundamentally, right? There's no good and bad. We imagine good and bad for ourselves based on the contextual clues of what everyone else imagines, right? We imagine that killing people is bad because we believe in this concept of individual human rights and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we don't have to believe in that, right? We survived for centuries, for thousands of years, not believing in that, and we're perfectly fine and achieved so much. Not necessarily good things, but we haven't been achieving particularly good things now, and either. So it again puts everything under it. So this book puts a lot of this stuff under question. And so as a result, right, there's nothing. Right. Okay. So very important comment about a so Elle had somebody at their school who was a who was a Stalin apologist, and honestly, I am sorry. I am very sorry because we all right. So for context, for those of you who aren't Russian and don't have parents who come from the Soviet Union, we all have grandparents or siblings of grandparents. Everyone who has come from Russia, who have parents who comes from Russia, has lost somebody to the Stalinist regime in the past four generations. My great grandfather on my mother's side was a priest, as we recently found. Oh, well, not recently. We knew this, and he spent 25 years in a Stalin work camp. Ended up dying there. So it's a fully generational thing that we exist in. And so that's why it's like everyone in Europe has somebody who died during the Second World War. Similarly in Russia, right? Everyone knows. Everyone has somebody in their family who died. That's right. Chris, who can't cook, that's oddly poetic of you. And I deeply miss the poetry that you write. You should write some more poetry. Um, and so okay, right, back to the concepts of self, back to the concept of self, and like the egoist self. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being inherently selfish, because everything's already made up, everything's already a concept of our imagination, and we already buy into concepts that aren't, first of all, aren't real, not really. And we all have to collectively buy into them. And so if we all collectively buy into the fact that, there's nothing, we all collectively bought in because a bunch of governments sold to us collectively the concept of we can't be selfish. Oh, right, yeah. Right. Just read the comments. They're hilarious. I deeply enjoy the fact that y'all are interacting with each other. It's peak. I'm gonna continue my rant about ego because I do have a point, and it's a very important point, and I hope that everyone benefits from me saying this point. Wait, give me a hot second. Okay. Right, they're dealing with things. And so you can absolutely be selfish, but that doesn't necessarily mean, right, hoard everything for yourself. I more often than not define everything. More often than not, I define everything in terms of me. I'm a firm believer in using the usage of I statements, and the use and being like, I feel this, I believe that. And furthermore, right, all of my behavior, I will always justify in terms of me. The most recent example is that right before I started this stream, I cleaned my entire room. I did all of my dishes. I put together my bed. I put away all my laundry. I put everything together and made it look nice and presentable. And it's not because, right, I have some incessant need to make sure that you all see my room looking nice. No, it's because it's less about what I believe other people believe of me. It's a lot more about what I want to present to the world, right? It has very little to do with the people who are going to be watching, and it has very little to do with who you are as a person. That is a wonderful quote, Natasha. I really love that specific quote. And it has very little to do with the outside world, and everything with how I want to present myself to the world. In the same exact vein, right? If I am willing to go above and beyond for any of my friends, it really has very little to do with my friends, and it has very much everything to do with the fact that I want to do it. And I don't particularly care if they don't want me to do it, and I don't particularly care if they think it's, over the top or it's too nice of me, because I want to do it, and so I'm going to do it because, I'm going to be selfish like that. And of course, I will, if somebody's really upset or really uncomfortable about it, it's fine, I won't. But it's never about, or it's very, very little times, it's about the other person. And very much so, it's about me and the fact that I want to, because I believe this is the way I portray, this is the way I should be portraying myself, or this is the way I should be putting myself out into the world. And I would do that. And I firmly believe that I would do that indiscriminately for people that I care about. It doesn't matter who you are, but as long as I care about you, I'm gonna put in that effort because I believe I'm supposed to. And once you start thinking in that context, it's really freeing, because you're no longer worried about what the other person will think of if you do this. You stop being worried about, oh, what if I come off too nice, or what if I come off not nice enough, or what if they take this the wrong way, because it's not about them, not really. And there's another okay, I'm gonna now read now to the wonderful discussion going on about uh that communism isn't really that Soviet communism isn't really communism, and that everyone who idealizes communism in the US and any other countries also needs to read up on what it is and why it's failed in almost every single country that has tried it. Nabokov, a great Russian author, presents this comment on the American communist sympathizers. No, please don't apologize for flooding the chat. I really enjoy this. This is like honestly the highlight. Like, if I am provoking these important and good discussions with my talking about whatever, that is all I aim to do. That really is. And so the quote goes like this: had he and foreign idealists been Russians in Russia, he and they would have been destroyed by Lenin's regime as naturally as rabbits are by ferrets and farmers. And that's fair. That's super valid, because no one has a conceptualization of what true capitalism works as, and no one has a conceptualization of what true communism should be, because as much as we read the theory, as much as we what's the Weber's text about the market and the invisible hand will correct. Ooh, that is a good essay quote. You're absolutely right. Right, but as much as we read those texts and as much as we believe in them, the reality of it is that they exist in a second level. They exist in a second level prediction, right? By predicting what will happen, we change the future. By predicting what's going to happen with the economy, we change the way the economy behaves, and therefore alter the future in and of itself. And so anything like that, theories like that, they alter the way we believe and the way we function, because in becoming aware of the underlying forces, right, we will correct for the underlying forces. We will try our hardest to, gain, even though take advantage of our understanding, and by doing so alter what is going on in the world. And I think it's difficult, and so the result of that is that it's super difficult to exist functionally in the world in any capacity, right? And our world systems are so dependent on us believing in them in the way that they are, is that by defining any one thing that exists, we alter it, and we fundamentally change the world that goes on, the world and the conceptualization and the unit, what we're actually attempting to define. We change it, which again causes a lot of difficulty. It causes, I don't know, if we predict that the prices of oil will go up tomorrow, we will crash the oil market, or switch it around, or however. And that is fully dependent on our species' absolute hubris about, we believe that we are the smartest creatures. And are we really? Because our biology isn't particularly much different from chimpanzees. Are we happier than we were 100 years ago? Are we happier than we were 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago? Are we in a better position than we were as hunter-gatherers? there are arguments that we're not. Because if you take a look at the average product that we're consuming, is it particularly healthy? Is it good for us? Are we meant to eat it? And so yeah. And part of this hubris and ego and belief that we are so important leads us to not only do unspoken horrors to each other, to the world, but it also leads us to. Okay, so Elle just said that she's a firm believer that the less you know, the happier you are, and I completely agree. The less you know, the happier you are, because stupid idiots, or happy idiots. But on the reverse, right? Can you exist? But on the reverse, can you exist in modern society without having an awareness? Can you exist and live a meaningful to yourself? Very importantly, a meaningful is what you define as meaningful life. If you don't have the information and knowledge to be an active member of your society, to be an active member of your community, to function to function in society as we have created it. I don't think you can. I don't think it's possible, and it's not even about democracy and right of choice and informed decision and informed voting. It's about things like, can you create effective social bonds if you don't know the idiosyncrasies of, for example, online communication, because that's how we now create social bonds. That is now one of the most important ways we keep in contact and create our social sphere. But can you live a fulfilling and meaningful life if you can't communicate on your phone, right? If you don't have a phone, if you don't reach out to people via that. And it used to be that you could, right? But at this point in time, right, I don't know anyone. Actually, that's a lie. I do know my grandparents. My grandparents don't have a cellular phone, but they do have a computer that they use, and they have to actively use in order to be to keep in touch with their family, to keep in touch with their sons, to keep in touch with me, for example, because again, I moved halfway across the world and haven't seen them in person in a while. And all of this, right, and all of this boils down to, is it that we're truly happier and truly living more comfortable lives with all of this technology, with this hubris driving us to the future is better? And I think that it's really important to consider, and again, to consider that question, to consider that concept, that we believe humans, and not even humans, but we believe that there is a better. We believe that in the future, if we find out the right amount of information, it will be better. We will be happier. We will be more productive. We will achieve more. We will believe in more things. We will have more options, without considering if that's what are we basing better upon, right? Is there really such a thing as better? And I don't know if I believe that there's such a thing as better. I think there's a thing such as different, and I think there's a thing such as less pain, more options. But I wouldn't necessarily automatically prescribe it the definition of better, because using a very a somewhat funny actually example from my own personal existence is that when I was in 5th, 6th grade, so I was 11, 12. Elliot, you'll remember this. You will, not only will you remember this, you will laugh at this, because I went to a public school, a government sponsored school. And so part of that is that I didn't have a uniform. Public schools in the United States don't have uniforms. But my father, out of care for me, we'll call it care because I would like to believe that it was care for me, insisted, yeah, fifth, sixth grade, seventh maybe, I think seventh as well, insisted that I wear a uniform to school. Oh, right, no. Oh, right, okay. See, I don't, Natasha, I didn't know. I have little recollection of you before freshman year of high school, so that's not on you. That's absolutely on me because my memory is just shot. Oh my god, we did! Oh my god, we did go to fifth grade camp together. Oh, that's wild. Oh, that's such a concept. But anyway, so I had to go to school in a uniform. And I had a navy pinafore. I had, I don't know, Elliot. You might have read, like, who remembers that far back? Goodness, I was 11. I That was 10 years ago. Like, none of that. But so I would wear, right, okay, but no one in my elementary and high school had a had a uniform. Right. See, it's fine. It's a side effect of my own personal trauma. It's okay. You guys don't have to rub it in that you can remember everything, and I don't like that. Red, that's a mood. Um and so I would have to wear a uniform, which is a white blouse and a navy pinafore, which is like a sarafan, an overdress. Um, and I would wear that every single day amidst a full peer group. Now, remember, at 11 to 13, y'all are vicious. Yeah, evil is a teenage girl. You're absolutely right. Evil is in fact a teenage girl. And so I had to wear that in a fairly elite stuck up social group. And I that was the only thing that I'm allowed and that was the only thing that I was allowed to wear out to school. Um Now, it made my life in the morning very easy because I didn't have that issue of like having to dress up. Oh my god. I am This is right. Please share the worst thing you did. Right. In the live chat or in the chat, if you're watching this afterwards, please share in the comments the worst thing that happened to you between the ages of 10 and 13 because now I desperately want to know. Or the worst thing that you did, either or doesn't really matter because just middle school year is the deepest pit in hell. High school is the second deepest pit in hell, but also still down there and awful. Um, right. What is cotillion? What is cotillion? Somebody explain to me this because I heard about it. I've heard about the phenomenon called cotillion. I think I've seen movies about cotillion, but like I have no conceptualization of what it is. Wow. Okay. So Elle convinced some of her classmates that she was a vampire, and honestly, that is perfect. Okay, but see, I learned that at home. I learned things like things from cotillion at home, right? My mother taught me how to use a knife and a fork at age 3. So, oh, ew, that sounds awful. Oh, in the middle school, Thursday evenings in the middle school gym. Oh my god, these are all gems. Goodness, y'all are just wow. I'm really glad. Right there, it is the collective bonding experience of all my friends. But what was I talking about? We got to cotillion. We were talking about, can somebody remind me what oh, right, uniforms, and the fact that hella social, like, oh yeah, that's true. That was a bad thing that happened. I completely agree. That was very sketchy. My mother almost pulled me out of that school for an extended period of time. Um, to be fair, one of our high school teachers also got fired for probably that. So yeah, guys, and that was one of the teachers that wrote my letter of rec. Right, my mom should have pulled me out of Stanley. I absolutely agree. It was awful. I am still socially scarred by everything that went out in that. The one with the daughter in our grade, if you remember that, the one in a band. I don't want to name names on things that are going to be public, but enjoy that. Yes. Right. Thank you, Natasha. You're absolute right. You did in fact get it right. It was in fact Ken. I will text you. Fine, I will share. But um, so but back to the topic at hand was um, the fact that wearing a uniform made my life in the mornings perfectly easy. Right? we went we went to a very prestigious California rich kids school, and that's all I have to say. Hell is going on in that country. The US is doomed. That being said, the UK isn't much better, I have to say. Um but anyway, continuing on to the fact that even though wearing a uniform made my life on a day-to-day basis a lot easier, we all hated California. Actually, no, I really miss California. I was supposed to be on a plane back home right now. Yet here I am in my dorm that's slightly overly clean at this point, but it's fine. Um, and so even though it made my life a whole lot easier, and honestly, it would have made everyone's lives a whole lot easier to just wear the same thing every day, and for people not to care about the fact that not to care about the way they're presenting themselves to the world, especially at 10 to 13. We were taught and we were collectively sold as a society the concept of the fact that we are supposed to care about the way we present ourselves, and we are supposed to care about our clothing and the name brands that we wear and the way and what we look like and the shoes that we wear and how we dress, and that was sold to us as being extremely important, to the point where I was social, like I did not have friends, not real friends, at the both 5th and 6th grade, because I was just considered to be that one weird girl who wore a uniform, which wasn't even my choice, because what kid at age 11? Oh, right, yeah, and see, and right, and so because we lived in a reasonably affluential group, region, right, our entire school fully and utterly bought into the concept of name brands. And yeah, I feel like we do it just really well, but also, oh god, Vineyard Vines. Okay, so if you don't know what Vineyard Vines is, it's the definition of rich pastel Malibu. That's what it is. It's rich pastel Malibu, and that is what red board shorts, red board shorts. Um, and so like, what's the point? Are we really happier? Are we, as 10 to 13 year olds, were we really happier if we were wearing name brands? Like, were we really? Because at this point, right, is having much bigger choice in anything that we have better for us than having a standardized set. Because like as much as I love being dressed up and getting dressed up, right, the fact that how much I care about presenting myself in a particular way and how much I know everyone else cares about the way I present myself gives me anxiety, gives everyone else anxiety, it makes everyone's lives a whole lot more difficult, because it really doesn't have to make everyone's lives difficult. It does not. We can all collectively agree that, you know what, having Burberry written right here, or having their little sign right there, or having Lululemon leggings does not make you any different or any better or any worse than anyone else. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing them. It doesn't matter what you wear. But because we all buy into that, we have to care. Because everyone else buys into it, we also have to buy into it. Okay. I'll consider. My trench coat is from a place called Muji, and it looks better than the Burberry ones. And it's like maybe a tenth of the price, not even. And so yeah, that is my social justice feminist rant of the day. If you haven't read, I didn't want to. So the reason why I didn't really talk about everything that goes on in Sapiens, because I really want everyone to read this book. You really, really should read this book. Please do. Please, if once you're reading it, please send me opinions on it. I will give you an out of context text from my friend Zoe, who I don't see in the chat today, which I'm kind of upset about. I'm not gonna lie, Zoe. When you watch this, I'm hurt. I'm hurt and betrayed. But much more importantly, a fascinating quote from her. Out of context, so please read this book. But monotheists just ruined polytheism, murdered each other over it, and then regenerated in the form of saints. Why are we so dumb? So yeah, please read the book. Also, full disclosure, Christmas is Yule, Easter is Ostaria, and which really is the spring solstice. So spring equinox, not spring solstice, spring equinox. So really, have we really got all that far? Or have we really made up new things? Have we really truly developed ourselves? Who knows? Not us. My next read. Right, yeah. Right, my next read. I'm going to go grab the book. Give me a hot second. My next read is this wonderful book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, which I am approximately halfway through, and it's about how corn colonized people, which it did. Everything you eat has corn in it, especially if you're in the United States, because then they don't regulate it nearly as heavily as like Europe does. Everything you eat has corn in it. So corn really colonized us. Oh, great. Yeah, after this, if you don't want to read this or you have already read it, I'm going to recommend to you a book called The Aesthetic Brain. Please enjoy that. Yes, the corn book again. Yes, the corn book again, because I feel like everyone needs to know that corn is everywhere and it's bad. It's really bad for us. Also, we are approximately 30 seconds out. Yeah, that's a great one. And I guess right after I finish this Omnivore's Dilemma, I will be reading The Aesthetic Brain, and then afterwards, if you want to get head start, I am going to get started on a book called The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. She also has another book out that should be equally as fascinating, but the Shock Doctrine is about how we are so desensitized to everything. Yes, Yes, drugs. Yeah, good shit. Great book. Fully agree. But The Shock Doctrine is about how we're so desensitized to everything that we are very, very easy to manipulate. We are super easy to manipulate. And so everything that all the media that we consume and all the media that we interpret is very much so dependent on these splashes of shock, of adrenaline, of endorphins. And that's how we choose what to read, that's how we choose what to perceive, and that's how we choose what to react to, because we already experience such a constant rush of endorphins and adrenaline when we interact with our everyday world. In order to get us hooked on anything, you have to double or triple that, which didn't used to be the case. All right, and so now we are up with our hour. Thankfully, this time YouTube did not decide to log me out after 5 minutes of watching, so this will be one nice consistent stream. Like and subscribe, but also no obligations. But if you subscribe, it will give you an automatic notification about the fact that I will be streaming. So maybe you should subscribe to watch me and have that automatic notification. And so yeah, I'll see you next week.